When I was in high school, I played baseball. I went to a really small school where they needed pretty much any able-bodied kid to play baseball, and I was an able-bodied kid. So I played third base. My glove, it was like a vacuum. Not a very strong vacuum, but it was like a vacuum. In my arm, I could throw the ball all the way from third base to first base. It generally had to bounce a few times, but I could get it there, and it was generally pretty accurate. So you know, in baseball, they have this thing called the designated hitter. Usually the position that gives the pitcher some rest. Our pitchers were actually very good hitters, so our team was unique. It was the third baseman, me, who was the person who was designated hitted for. I may have had like a dozen or so at bats throughout my whole high school career. I think the designated hitter's family took a few vacations and he wasn't able to be there, so I had to hit. If the runners were on base, which they often were, the coach had me lay down a bunt to advance the other runners. This was something that I was actually pretty good at. The sacrifice bunt means the hitter gives up individual gain for the good of the team. Generally speaking, a sacrifice is giving something good for something better. So I'm here at Werner Park. It's where the Omaha Storm Chasers play. Now these guys are good. They're really good. Every one of these players is one phone call away from playing for the Kansas City Royals. All these players, they know about sacrifice. They have to, or they would not be playing here. All the players, they have sacrificed hanging out with friends, and they've spent hours in the batting cage. They've sacrificed comfort for demanding workout schedules. They've sacrificed careers for chasing their dream of playing in the major leagues. They have all hit a ball deep into left field to score a runner on third base. They've all laid down a bunt to move the leadoff runner to second base. Jesus knew something about sacrifice. His life was a sacrifice for others. His death was a sacrifice for others. The Gospel of John tells us there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. To sacrifice something is to make it holy by giving it away in love. Time is valuable. You decide to set up chairs or hold babies on Sunday mornings, or maybe you serve one of our ministry partners during the week. That time is holy because it is given away in love. Let's say you practice generosity. You work really hard to get some money put in your checking account every other week. And then you give 10% of this to the church and to God's purposes. This money is holy because you have given it away in love. Jesus gives his life for the sins of many. His life was perfect. His death was painful. It's kind of like this. A mother of a 9-year-old boy named Mark received a phone call in the middle of the afternoon. It was the teacher from her son's school. The phone call went something like this. Mrs. Smith, something unusual happened today in your son's third grade class. Your son did something that surprised me so much that I thought I should let you know about it immediately. Now at this point, the mother became worried. The teacher continued. Nothing like this has happened in all my years of teaching. This morning I was teaching a lesson on creative writing, and as I always do, I tell the story of the ant and the grasshopper. The ant works hard all summer and stores up plenty of food. But the grasshopper plays most of the summer and does not work. When winter comes, the grasshopper begins to starve because he has no food. So he begins to beg, please, Mr. Ant, you have much food. Let me eat too. Then I said, boys and girls, your job is to write the ending to this story. Your son, Mark, raised his hand and he said, teacher, may I draw a picture? Well, yes, Mark, if you like, you may draw a picture, but first you must write the ending to the story. In all the years past, most of the students said the ant shared his food with the grasshopper and both survived throughout the winter. A few children wrote, no, Mr. Grasshopper, you should have worked throughout the summer. Now I have just enough food for myself. So the ant lived and the grasshopper died. But your son ended the story in a different way than any other child ever has. He wrote, so the ant gave all his food to the grasshopper. The grasshopper lived through the winter, but the ant died. And the picture at the bottom of the page, your son Mark had drawn 3 crosses. Now, God is holy because he gave himself for others. A sacrifice is giving up something good for something better. God's suffering was worth it for the redemption of the world. So I have a car. It's 9 years old and has 140,000 miles on it. My car is paid for, it runs well. At this point, it even still smells pretty good. But I saw a commercial for a Jeep. Now this Jeep looked really cool. I could get a new Jeep, but I'm choosing to keep my older Infiniti. Our church is constructing our first building, and I want to be a big part of that. I have seen God change lives in the last 8 years in our small groups, in our kids ministry, in our student ministry through missions. A new car would be really good. It would smell really good instead of pretty good. I could hook up my iPhone to the car instead of listening to the AM/FM radio. But I'm actually excited about giving up something good for me in exchange for something great for the community. A place where the forgiveness of sins will be experienced, a place where hope will be discovered, a place where authentic community will happen, a place where servants are equipped, a place where recovery will overcome addiction. You see, when you sacrifice something, you're not actually losing it. You're passing it on to somebody else. God knew about sacrifice. God sacrificed himself for us. We are created in God's image. We have fallen from God's image. So we are restored to God's image, and our life makes the most sense when we sacrifice. Hebrews says, and don't forget to do good, to share with those who are in need. These are the sacrifices that please God. Think about that. God is leading us to sacrifice, not to give what is left, but to give what is right. To serve others by giving our best time and our best energy. To practice generosity by sharing abundantly. This is pleasing to God. Sacrifice is a part of our life. It's supposed to be. It's not something we'll regret. It's something that we should aspire to. Paul says, let each of you look not to your own interest, but also to the interest of others. Our church is filled with people who don't only look to their own interest, but also to the interest of others. I see it all the time. I see it every week. It's in your own interest to go to worship, but instead you choose to teach that class of third graders in Sunday school. It's in your own interest to play it safe, but you choose instead to volunteer at the Hope Center. It's in your own interest to drive one car with your family to worship, but you come early to set up or you stay late to tear down. It's in your own interest to buy new countertops for your kitchen or take a vacation, but instead you choose to practice generosity. Let each of you look not only to your own interests, but also to the interest of others.
The first half of our marriage, we made really bad financial decisions. We spent more than we made, but about 10 years ago, and actually today is our 20th anniversary, but 10 years ago today, we decided that we were going to live a more financially responsible life. We, together as a couple, we went through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, and so we started to live that more financially responsible life. And part of that, we decided to put God first in our marriage and just really to get honest and real about what was important. In the Bible, God says to us to bring our full offering to Him and test Him in this, and He promises that He will open up heaven and pour out blessings beyond your wildest dreams to Him. I know that's definitely been true in our marriage and our family. You know, sometimes I can think about, you know, before unexpected events that probably would have haunted us or caused us stress, you know, became blessings and joys for us. And I think probably the most important thing that Darren and I would say is probably that, you know, just really focusing on God and putting Him first in our marriage probably saved our marriage.
So we used to fight about money years ago when we had financial problems. Now we're able to give, and I'm not saying we're not concerned about money, but it's never a topic of, it's a good topic for us. We're on the same page. We're no longer disagreeing on decisions, and we make decisions together, and we're able to make decisions that feel good.
We have 3 teenagers, and so we really try to teach them to be thankful for the blessings that we have. Our family is very blessed, and so it's important that they understand that and to be thankful for what they have, and not, you know, always thinking about what they want or what they don't have.
This summer our boys got their first real paycheck, and I let them make their own decision.
This summer at UNO, Alex and I had a job, and we had to clean the shower dams, and we had to like rip them out and remove everything from them.
Yeah, that was pretty gross stuff we were working with there.
Yeah. All the hair from people showering.
Yeah, but it was worth the money.
Yeah, definitely. When I received my first paycheck, I asked my dad how I should split up the money, and he said it was my choice since I earned that money myself. And I told him that I felt like I should save and give some of my money, and I think it was because I was raised that way, and if I wasn't raised that way, I most likely would have kept it all to spend. And I think that's a blessing for me, that like I feel led to give money back to people.
When I first started getting an allowance from my parents, they taught me that I should save half and then give 10% back in some way, practicing generosity. So this summer when I got my first job and received my first paycheck, it was just automatic almost, just to give back to my church.
Giving generously has helped me grow closer to God by realizing what I'm thankful for and focusing what I have and not what I don't have. I also choose to give God my time by going to youth group on Wednesday nights and going to the mission trip for a week in the summer. The adult leaders I have met and the friends I've met have made a great impact on my life, and I'm thankful for that.
When I give generously to my church, I don't feel like I've lost anything. I really feel closer to my church and God, and it's exciting to see what your church can do for you when you give to them. So when I was taught to practice generosity from a young age, I started looking forward to giving and thinking of different ways that I could give back to my church and organization. And I wasn't really dreading the day that I had to give to my church, but I've had more trust in God.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that my parents had me save and give money at an early age, because I think it's made me a better person and it's helped me grow closer with God.
I definitely think that, you know, taking Financial Peace was probably a life-changing, it was a marriage changer for us. You know, I think if we hadn't, we don't know right where we would have been, probably, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first 10 years of our relationship, we were never on the same page, probably not even in the same book, actually.
Right.
Would be more realistic.
Yeah.
Now we're on the same page, and we discuss things, and we know where we're at. And
yeah, I think it's just, I mean, it's a level of trust. You're trusting God that He's going to provide for you, and you know, out of those blessings that He gives to us, it's really just a joy for us to be able to give back and bless others.
It is.
So my son David and I were out here for one of the games this summer. And it was the bottom of the 8th inning, and David was wanting to go home, and it was a close game. Omaha was only behind by 1 run. So we held them to 0 runs in the 9th inning, and at the bottom of the 9th, Omaha was down by 1 run. The first batter hit a home run. He tied it up. It was really cool. So then the next batter, he got a base hit. He hit the ball into left field. He made it to first base. The third batter for the inning laid down the perfect sacrifice bunt. The ball slowly rolled down the first base line. The pitcher had no choice but to throw the runner out on first base, and the main runner advanced to second base. Now what happened here was a sacrifice bunt. The player gave up himself for the good of the team. The next batter flew out to second base, and the next batter after that hit a single. And the runner ran around third base and he scored, and the Storm Chasers won. Now the players who got all the credit were the man that hit the home run, the player who hit the winning hit, and the guy who scored the winning run. But this was all made possible by the one who laid down the sacrifice bunt, the one who gave up his individual glory for the good of the team. As I look back on my life, the best things have happened because of sacrifice. Not gifts, not creativity, not intelligence, but sacrifice. Coaching the soccer team for 7 seasons was a huge sacrifice of energy for me. It was also one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. Running the Boston Marathon required a huge sacrifice of time. Every morning for 15 straight months. But I'll never forget those 26.2 miles. Giving generously to the Water's Edge has been a sacrifice. Lots of money, lots of tears, lots of nights without much sleep. But so many lives, so many stories, and so much healing and grace and salvation. I've given up some pretty good things in the short term for something great in the long term, and I just can't wait to do more.